yes, the world is totally fucked up. G'day viewers, and welcome once again to the weekly roundup that is Totally Fucked Up Friday. And I'm going to start this week with a target that's always suggested to me, but I rarely go after, and that is Fox News, darling of the neoconservatives, founded by Australian expatriate Rupert Murdoch. Now, the main reason I don't go after Fox News is mostly because it's just too easy, and second, it's politics, and in fact most of it is a fucking sideshow, and they don't even believe what they're saying, so why waste my breath on them? But this particular story I was pointed to is just fundamental to what's fucking wrong with a lot of media and political commentary. It's a Fox station running a story, and I'll link to their website, where they're saying basically public libraries should be shut down because, they're a drain on taxpayers. This is one of those topics that is so fucking fundamental, there's not even an argument to put against that person. It's like saying, should we really be paying for clean tap water? Isn't that communism and putting a tax on corporations? Shouldn't they be able to do what they want and dump poison where they want? Libraries have been so fucking fundamental to spreading learning and reading and basic advances in human behaviour to argue that they're not cost effective. I don't want to argue with the people who would put this forward. I just want them to fucking die. That's not a metaphor. Go fucking die. I don't really care how, but yeah, for preference, something painful. Maybe in the gutter, choking on your own fucking bile, with a dog pissing in your face as you choke out your last breaths. But just make it soon, okay? Go fucking die. On the lighter side now, let's look at the G20 riots in Canada. When this was happening earlier in the week, I had people messaging me on Twitter asking what I thought about it. Is that totally fucked up or what? Look at those bad anarchist types with masks burning police cars. Look, and on the surface, that looks pretty bad. And I reserved judgment at the time because I didn't really know what was going on. But I did say, if you ever want your eyes opened, attend a rally or a protest for something you care about that attracts a police presence and a media presence, and then later go and compare the media reports and the police statements to what you experienced, and you will find there is a fucking massive gulf between the two. I'm not saying they lie every time they open their mouth, just on topics where it's important. And I'm going to give you a link to a Boing Boing post that has more links. There is a lot of fascinating stuff to read, but particularly I like the stuff where the police trotted out, look at these weapons they confiscated. A lot of the things weren't weapons, and they weren't confiscated from people at the rally, because they were just sweeping up anyone who was on the street and arresting them and putting them in fucking cages and spending $1 billion doing it. It was absolutely ridiculous. It was insane. But particularly worth reading is, follow the link where it refers to the Canadian Police's history of being agent provocateurs. Because anyone who goes to, well, a lot or any protests, you'll hear stories about police plants being in the crowd and deliberately causing trouble, which gives the police the excuse to do the charge with the batons and the shields. And some people say that's just paranoid. Look, this one that's linked to, I don't think it's conclusive, but it's some bloody interesting observations, like the police cars that were set on fire. Why were they left directly in the path of where this little anarchist group was going, and they were unattended with no police protecting them? Why weren't they moved behind the police riot line? Not conclusive, but interesting food for thought. And that article also has some of the most damning personal observations of what looks like police agent provocateurs in a crowd that I've ever read. Yeah, not conclusive, but food for thought. So when you see any footage or read any stories or hear a police statement about protests or rallies, it's always worth taking it with a grain of salt, because they might not be telling you the truth. But I've got to round off with some police heroes, a really hero story. As a man whose crotchety old bed-ridden granny wouldn't take a medication, which is, You know, not that uncommon for people who care for elderly people, but it can be life-threatening, so you have to do it against their will sometimes. So he called emergency services to help him, expecting to get an ambulance and paramedics. Now, he says he got a dozen armed cops. That's right, they're helping little people. They're not doing... Wait, what did they do? Oh, okay. They thought the granny was too ornery because she was ordering everyone out of a room. And one of them whipped out a taser and said, "Let's tase her!" And the grandson went, "Whoa, you know, don't tase my granny, bro." And they considered him an obstruction and smacked him about, dragged him outside, handcuffed him, and shut him up in a police car. Now, okay, this story is so outrageous, I would be prepared to be shown at a later date it wasn't true. But in the absence of any other evidence, I'm going to tell you how this story plays out. So the grandson is out of the way. It's only Granny versus a dozen armed cops now. They'll calm the situation down. They calm it down by treading on her oxygen hose. That's right, she's bedridden and crotchety, but she's on an oxygen hose. So they cut off her oxygen supply until she starts suffering from oxygen deprivation, and then they're going to move in and she's getting ornery again. So one of the cops called her striking an aggressive posture. Yes, bedridden, dependent on oxygen, Granny is too aggressive for 12 armed cops. And yes, they tase her. Take that, Granny! And that's not all. The first one didn't fix properly, so a second guy tased her into unconsciousness. And then, when they've tased a granny to unconsciousness, they handcuffed her so harshly they made her arms bleed. I will not let anyone say the police aren't out there helping us. That sort of talk is totally fucked up.